Welcome to Mock It. Liz is a user experience strategist turned project manager committed to human-centered driven approaches and results. She has worked on 20-plus higher education, government, and client-facing websites and software platforms, creating long-lasting, user-focused digital solutions. Liz is devoted to equity and strives to celebrate diversity and inclusion in the industry and beyond. Marie is a former visual designer turned agile-loving, human-centered design advocate. They have helped government organizations for almost a decade build successful digital products by aligning cross-functional teams around a deep understanding of the user at the heart of their mission. Marie is passionate about improving user experiences while achieving business objectives in harmony. They are also a strong advocate for women in STEM.
Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Marie, and this is Mock It, a podcast sponsored by MetroStar, where we take a deep dive look into UX design, trending design topics, and chatting with our friends in the field. Let's get started.
So, season 3.
Yeah.
I know. It's very exciting. It's a dream, whirlwind that we're here. So, for our listeners, we wanted to give a heads up of some new things that you're going to see as part of our season 3. So with that, in the past, you've seen either the two of us just dive right into a topic or the two of us dive into a topic with a guest. Mm-hmm. What we're going to do is we're still going to be having guests, but shorten the interview times with our guests and then use the first 10 minutes to do industry updates from past episodes, any fun updates that we have going on, and then any new tips or tricks that we think are valuable for our listeners.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this additional format that we'll be trying out. And with that, I think you have a fun industry update to share.
Yes. So with that, this last week on the 15th of November, I attended the ACT-IAC CX Summit, which ACT-IAC is the American Council for Technology Industry Advisory Council. Right? That's a mouthful. But it was a super awesome summit. And then the ACT-IAC is, for our listeners, if they want to know, it's a 501c3 nonprofit educational organization established to improve government through the effective and innovative application of technology. So this year's summit, we're talking about innovation, application of technology, was really highlighting how to operationalize the president's management agenda.
Very cool.
Right. So I was really interested, right? We just had the executive order come out earlier this year. So really seeing like what, how, who, what, where, when, how do we really initiate and start to actually put what was in that order into practice. So a couple of big things, just as a recap, that they covered were it's prioritizing the human, so prioritizing the American citizen. It's helping to give folks who aren't in customer experience. To go back, CX Summit is Customer Experience Summit. Those who don't have the language to talk about it, to be empowered to look to those who are in that field, and then for those in the field to help educate and give folks the language to use. So really it's taking a really good hard look at ourselves in CX, human-centered design, and how do I break it down plain language for anyone, so it could be an over-the-dinner topic, or over coffee or whatever activity. And then thirdly is also they really focused on the OMB Section A11 280, which from a UX perspective, it's part of it that really formalizes and keeps that executive order will continue to go no matter, another president is elected or even the same presidential party is in office and, different priorities. But there is a whole set of how do we continue to define, judge, observe, evaluate that the technologies that we are putting out for the American people are coming off transparently, are building trust, and a really good set of criteria for agencies to continue to look at themselves and the applications that they are building.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Yes. And oh my gosh, I feel like how I just went through it was also how the day was. It was packed of information. It was one talk after another talk after another. It was awesome. And I would say definitely worth going in following years.
So a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
Where was it?
It was in DC. This year was at the Renaissance Hotel. I don't know if it's always there, but it's local to DC at least.
Got it.
Which is where we're based for this podcast.
And then what was like the demographics? Was it like half agency, half like what was the breakdown of who the attendees were?
Yeah, so I don't know if the specific information is out, but it was definitely a mix of federal employees and industry folks. It was really nice. Instead of doing like lecture style with like rows of chairs, they had a bunch of tables. Oh. So when there's a speaker or a panelist, everyone's facing towards the stage. In between, it was nice, right? Like you're all facing into the center, and right, it forces just like collaboration, chatting, like, small talk, or, as far as you want to get into sharing about what you're doing. So, at our table, we had all industry people, but like the table, they were really close in like a not so close way, but if you like turn your chairs this way and that. So then there was like federal agencies there as well. There was also a breakout session, so then you got to mix again with folks. So I'd say it was pretty diverse, maybe 50-50, but it was really cool and interesting just to talk to others in the field.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you already said that it's just going next year. Yeah. I know that we sort of started getting some information about this maybe an end of summer for next year when people should start looking out.
Probably like early fall, I would say. We probably came out like September-ish. Okay. I feel like I had 2 months to get my act in order, to like get the day off, find out if anyone else was going. Yeah. Awesome.
No, thanks for that update. And then thanks for that plug for next year. Now I'm like, next year I got to mark that on my calendar.
Yeah, it was, I can't say enough about it. I found it very informative. I think it definitely compared to, so I'm used to going to conferences about design or anything, but right, they're all usually more commercially focused, which makes sense, right? Like if you go to Adobe Summit or anything. So this was really cool to get that same kind of information, but relatable to the problems, the concerns, the areas that matter in the public sector. So I think maybe that's why I'm like so pumped about it. But so it was really cool to experience that. And there was relatable challenges. Like there was a whole conversation about the PRA, which is the Paper Reduction Act, and the impact that has on getting usability tests done or user interactions. Because there's a whole process to make sure that the government isn't inundating the public. But then also now we have these orders that are like, oh, you need to find out, though, how is your service helping the public? So there's a good discussion on that and how that process is improving.
That's super cool. Very, very real world application.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that update. I really appreciate you sharing that. And hopefully I'll go next year and our listeners will get a chance to go next year. So with that, let's head into our interview.
For sure.
So for our first guest of season 3, we have Allison. She's a graphic design extraordinaire who also dabbles in the world of UX by designing and updating MetroStar's website. From beautiful PowerPoints and creative social media graphics to creating swag for the company, she's got her hand in most things design related at MetroStar. Welcome, Allison. For today's episode, you're going to be sharing about MetroStar's corporate social responsibility and our CARES program, which I'll have you verify, but stands for Collaborative Action of Responsible Employees for Society. So welcome, Allison. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and your career at MetroStar?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. My name's Allison. I'm the principal designer on MetroStar's marketing team. And like Liz said, I definitely have my hands in a lot of things, whether people like it or not. I kind of get to yell at people if they are misusing the brand or if they're stretching the logo. I've never actually yelled at someone, but I usually just go in and change it myself. Just kind of making sure the brand stays cohesive and consistent. I get to do anything from making stickers for fun events to making proposal graphics. So it's definitely a wide range of things that I get to do. Help with presentations, get to make t-shirts. It's kind of all over the place, but definitely keeps me on my toes.
Oh, actually, fun fact, you and Marie worked on the Mucket logo.
No, that was all Allison.
Oh, all Allison.
I just asked her to make my hair more crazy curly. More volume. That was all.
That was fun.
It was
all
fun
to work
Allison. Yeah. No.
Dabbling in everything.
Honestly forgot that I did that.
So I'm super stoked because I definitely love when we do design episodes because I feel like I learn a ton from Marie and whoever our other design expert is. So thank you for being here. We are super stoked and I am excited to learn from both of you for this episode. So to kick us off, we're going to be doing a round of rapid fire questions for you. So if you were to describe your personal design style in a few words, what would you use for yourself personally? And then how would you describe MetroStar style in a few words?
My personal style, I would say goofy, cartoony. And then for MetroStar style, professional.
Yes. I was going to say, like, Allison, I love your personal style. I also love what you do for MetroStar, but right, it is more professional. So yeah, I mean, Allison has a wonderful Instagram handle to check out for her goofy, fun cartoons that are very humorous too with the content, the little sayings.
Can't really do all those for MetroStar.
No.
Well, I'm going to just find that on Insta later.
Right, except for the chicken.
Oh, yeah.
That I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Thanks for that. And then I know where I'm gonna stalk you later on social media. So be prepared for that. We also want to mention that during some of the PowerPoint presentations, your dog does make appearances a lot. So I love anytime you do PowerPoints. I think that is a great, it makes me really, really happy because like as people know, I'm obsessed with my dog. So
yeah, he's my sweet baby boy.
So what tools do you love to use and what tools do you think aren't worth the hype?
For that question, it's actually the same program. I love and hate Adobe. I use Adobe Illustrator for pretty much 80% of everything that I do, maybe even more than that. But it's got its quirks. I feel like it doesn't crash as much as it used to, but I feel like the collaboration on it isn't ideal. But I have been really liking Figma lately for collaboration. Trying to get into that more.
Yeah, I mean, Figma is definitely worth the hype. I love it. I'm obsessed with it.
Worth the hype. Yeah.
I looked at you. I was like, Marie's got this.
Yeah.
Haven't heard any bad things about Figma. Everyone loves it.
Right. Just we're seeing now since it got sold to Adobe, but
Awesome. So then, what are some designers you admire at the moment?
Back to Figma. There's someone on Instagram who does really great Figma tutorials, like on Instagram Reels. And I think they're like really small, bite-sized tidbits that are just like really useful because I don't really know how to use Figma yet. His name is Xander Whitehurst, and I think he's in the UK. But I found him on Instagram, and he's just got great videos, great tips for Figma.
Nice. Does he have kind of long, like, shorter hair?
Yeah, you've probably seen him.
Yeah, and he zooms glasses in somehow or something. Like he has some like move. Yeah,
he's always like super fast, and then he like
that's what it is.
Really, really fast.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I really like his videos. And then another artist I like on Instagram, she does really stunning like 3D illustrations using Blender and Cinema 4D, which I would love to learn. So that's also like really cool to just look at. And there's so many artists on Instagram that I'm just like, wow, that is talent.
I agree.
See, this is why I love the design episodes. I feel like I just
design
get
episodes are fun.
Yeah, like everyone's in their element and I just get to learn. So this is awesome. And then kind of a sidekick question. Where do you find your inspiration?
Instagram. Dribble is really great. Reddit, also good. Picture books, or any books really. Picture books are just amazing for all sorts of reasons.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on our podcast today. So while we've kind of gotten a quick shot at who you are as a designer and sort of your inspiration and how you get to be so creative, we invited you onto the podcast to also talk about what you do at MetroStar, specifically within our corporate social responsibility, our CSR initiatives, and the CARES program. So especially as the holidays come up, we wanted to chat with you a little bit more about the initiatives that we are doing as a company at MetroStar. So if you could take a moment to tell our listeners what's on the forefront for the CARES program.
Yeah, so our CARES program is really just a pledge to support communities and organizations that align to our values and that our employees are passionate about, also driving positive change, investing profits into the future of communities, just building a better tomorrow. So just trying to be better. So that's kind of vague. You can take so many organizations that are doing so many great things. It's nice to be able to help so many different fundraisers or nonprofits. We've done everything from Toys for Tots to food drives, Pride, different kinds of marathons there's like the Marine Corps Marathon, and there's all sorts of stuff. So it's exciting to be able to help all sorts of little, pockets.
Yeah, I can definitely attest for the Pride funders. You definitely you reach out for some of the organizations that I'm involved with. So I love that the CARES program they have personal connections to MetroStar employees. Mm-hmm. So I think that is that's just really cool as an employee. Your company has your back in sort of the extracurriculars that you do outside of work. So let's walk through your process. So when the team decides to work on a CARES initiative, where do you start? What questions do you ask? How do you approach CARES differently from other projects that might be more corporate focused or like proposal focused?
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty similar to a marketing campaign. You want to really know your audience, figure out if you want to have social media or not. It always helps to have social media to promote what you're trying to do, to raise funds for. If there's an event that your fundraiser is tied to, it helps to know if it's in person or virtual, because that makes a huge difference. And then also like how you want to collect funds. This is something that really tripped me up. I think the first time I started a campaign, or not started, but like was really driving a campaign by myself and trying to like plan out all the pieces. Taxes. People, yeah. So it's kind of just like, yeah, you kind of just hope that you can create something, get it printed or get it created, and then people just throw money at you. But people actually want to keep track of things for tax purposes, not just as a company, but if someone donates like $100, they're going to want like, an official receipt that they can write off during tax season. So there are certain platforms that make it super easy, but just something to keep in mind. Of course, I'm sure there are other ways and you can do through Venmo and stuff, but I think at a larger scale, it really helps to have a platform that kind of deals with that for you. I think that's a huge one. But for everything else, I think the swag part kind of comes last. Like for me, that's the most fun. But getting to know your audience, knowing, the timeline, don't make it a super long timeline. Kind of keeping it at like almost like a sprint, like plan out exactly what you want to do just to make it as seamless as possible.
That's awesome. I love how you and I are both like, oh, that's a good point with taxes.
I really thought you were going to be like, can you use Venmo? Or like, how should you be collecting the money? Not like, oh, crap, the adulting part of it, taxes.
Yeah, yep.
Yep, right.
It's not fun, but you got to do it. But
yeah.
So then, what would you like? How do we come up with who we're going to support or like these initiatives? I know maybe now we're sort of on like an annual basis with some of them, like Toys for Tots. We do it at the holidays, stuff like that. How has that, now that you've gotten the program kind of off the ground, what was it like at the beginning with coming up with things and then adding new programs in, I guess, as we still go through?
So when I first started at MetroStar, I think it was like 6.5 years ago, there are already some organizations that we supported on a yearly basis. And I think through each one, it was brought up to us by an employee. Like someone was really passionate and then they kind of brought it to the table. And I feel like that's still happening now. It's really hard not to say yes to everything. Like, oh, of course, that sounds great. Like, I would love to help, XYZ. But you also can't have 30 fundraisers stacked back to back in a year. Employees will just get fundraiser fatigue and you'll kind of see engagement start to drop off. So even if you don't do the same ones every single year, I think for the upcoming years, we're kind of trying to plan and cycle through different ones, just so they're not all stacked together around the holidays. For example, you don't want to have, 3 fundraisers in the span of like a month because people will probably engage with the first one and then kind of drop off. So that's a big one. Just try not to stack them all together.
What would you recommend is like a good amount of fundraisers throughout the year? Like, is it 4 of them that are spread out throughout the year?
It depends. So our biggest fundraiser, I would say, is with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. This year there was a ball, and then there's also a Light the Night walk in Reston Town Center that we always do. And that one is our longest one, and it runs for about a month, maybe longer, depending on when we kick it off. The event is usually in mid-October, so we kick it off end of October, early December, and try to have it run for a month, just so it's fresh on employees' minds. They're getting updates about it constantly, and we kind of help kind of gauge and steer like, oh, okay, so this is our biggest one. Like, let's raise as much as we can, kind of like a sprint. And then there's much smaller fundraisers, like trying to get, folks together for a 5K and like, hey, we're going to order these t-shirts. It's a much smaller lift. We post about it on social media. We're still raising money and getting awareness out, but it's not like a month-long campaign.
Yeah. So
it kind of depends. I would say, like, I don't know if there's like a perfect number to have. Ideally, it's changing up every week and we're like, all right, fundraiser, helping everybody. But maybe once a quarter. I think, like we were talking about earlier, there's always some around the holidays, but there's also a lot during the holidays, but you kind of need to spread the love throughout the year. So maybe trying to find some of the smaller ones to do, the other half of the year. Or like during the summer, we have Pride, and then there's some slower months that don't really have anything associated with. So I think for planning, kind of sprinkling in some of the smaller easy lift campaigns or fundraisers. I'm calling everything a campaign because it's just like marketing brain.
No, I the one that I look forward to all of them that we do, but specifically like for the holidays, I love that we do Toys for Tots. I think that is just like, I think it's really nice that we do, but so for people who are listening and maybe want to get involved with something like Toys for Tots, how that's like a little bit like people kind of recognize Toys for Tots, like, how do you like start getting involved with something like that? Or do we do it like sort of individually and then just like go to a drop-off location?
So for our company specifically, and I think you could kind of just start it up as a group and try to collect as many toys as you can, and then organize for someone to do like a big drop-off. Or I'm pretty sure there are like drop-off locations for anyone to get involved. You can probably go to their website and find a really close location. It's I think nationwide. So I think depending on, and this goes for any fundraiser, there are usually local chapters, depending on how big the nonprofit is. You could find a chapter close to you and then reach out to them, see how you can help. If you can't give any money, like a lot of times, like just volunteering your time is a huge help, because I mean, the more hands, the better. I'm sure for Toys for Tots, they need people to help collect the toys. I know for MetroStar, we've always just collected everything at our headquarters, and then we'll organize, like, taking the truckload of toys over to the drop off.
Yeah, I walked in this morning. For the listener watching, we record at HQ in Reston, and I walked in and a lot of the toys that have come thus far.
I keep forgetting you're at HQ. It's the studio's throwing me off.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Yeah, like I said, I always look forward to that one. I think it's like a really kind one that we do. So thanks for organizing us on that one.
Yeah, everyone loves helping kids. And if you don't, you got to reassess your life.
For sure. So I had a question. I thought you were going to touch on it, but how does someone, or like, what's your advice to someone out there who wants to bring something that they're passionate about to their company's, what is that? The Corporate Social Responsibility Initiative. How do you go about it? Like, I know you said, like a lot of people come to us. I honestly wouldn't have known to like email marketing. I probably would have started with Maria downstairs, right? Just because that's where I've like seen the Toys for Tots, or we've done the Thanksgiving meals before. But right, like, or now that we're remote, right? Not everyone even sees everyone who's like part of how it's all done. Yeah. What's your advice for how does someone bring it to their company?
I think for starting, if your company doesn't have any sort of corporate social responsibility program, I think it's easy to get one started. You kind of just have to be the person to say, hey, I think this is a really great idea. Here's one fundraiser that I want to start, or one organization that we could really help make an impact for. And then kind of just keep cycling it up to whoever's ahead of you and be like, hey, I think this is a great idea. I'll take the lead on it. And then try to get resources. Luckily, I didn't have to do that at MetroStar. It was kind of already in place. And I kind of just get to like help heavily with it. But I think for me personally, if I wanted to start a campaign, I'm not in charge of budget. I shouldn't be allowed to be in charge of budget. I would still have to get approval from someone and be like, oh, like, this is a great animal shelter. Oh, I would love to help an animal shelter and make little bandanas. That's in the future.
Oh, yeah, I'll get one for Layla.
Oh, yeah. Tate would get one.
Right? So I think you can put some, if you're going in kind of like without any experience at all, maybe take a step back, put some materials and resources together. Like, this is the company, this is their mission, this is why it's important. Like, I think it would really help, or it aligns to the company's values. Or if you're not a part of a company and you just want to do this yourself and start, something smaller, and start to kind of treat it as a campaign. Like, this is what I want to raise money for. This is why swag, social media, trying to figure out just like the pieces that goes into it. And there's a lot of pieces, and taxes, but you can start smaller. I don't like to go on and on about taxes, but that's an important part.
You're drilling at home today.
And I'm really bad at taxes.
So I kind of touched upon it, but you and I have worked together on an initiative for Rainbow Families, which for people who, everyone in this room knows, but I'm on a board for Rainbow Families, which is a nonprofit that empowers, connects, and educates LGBTQ families. Basically, as people know, I just had a baby. For queer families, it's a little more scientific than other families. So that's the board that I'm very involved with outside of work. And MetroStar has kindly for the last 2 years supported Rainbow Families as part of their Pride fundraiser. So what was doing the first year, we did a t-shirt, and then last year we did like a swag bag. What was the design process like for you?
So the design process for the Pride campaign, so fun to work on. But I don't even think that t-shirt was our first, our first option. I think we were originally looking at like tote bags or, hats or something. And then we learned very quickly how crazy people go for t-shirts or just clothing in general. People love t-shirts. And it's kind of surprising. We're like, oh, we could do this or this. But people are constantly asking for t-shirts, like even outside of, CARES initiatives. People are just crazy for sure. We need a t-shirt cannon at MetroStar. And I think that would really hype people up. But the design process is kind of like, you pretty much need to figure out what you want to create before getting too much into the design, because you can't fit a design the size for a t-shirt on a hat. Like a lot of times you got to like tweak it. So I think we were originally looking at like canvas bags and then settled on t-shirts and got really excited about, everyone else got really excited about t-shirts. And then for even outside of CARES, my favorite thing to do before starting on anything design is just putting together a mood board, just kind of like having the idea in my head.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's easy. You just take a sheet of paper. You can do it. I usually do it on like PowerPoint or Keynote. Just getting pictures from Instagram, Dribbble, Google, wherever you want, and putting all of these images together. I try to do as many as possible. I would say start with 6, go up to like 15, maybe more. And then just kind of let those ideas kind of like blend together, marinate a bit, and it'll kind of like influence a design further down the road. And I think what also helps is when I make a mood board, it's usually for a campaign and other people are involved. I'll send the mood board to other people and just like put together a mood board, take a look, let me know what you think. And it'll usually spark ideas from other people and they get like super jazzed. Well, I don't like that I just said jazz, but like they get super psyched on like one aspect of the mood board, and then it can kind of influence the design further down the road, and it just makes it a little bit more collaborative versus just like starting from scratch and staring at a blank sheet of paper. I think is so daunting.
So what tips do you have for making like the quote unquote right choice when you start to doubt yourself, or what questions do you ask yourself or the team to make sure that you're going in the right direction of creating swag?
So I doubt myself all the time, and I think that's fine. Luckily, I have a super supportive team, and I think a lot of designers can relate to this, but even just like as a tidiness thing, you normally don't realize typos or mistakes until after you like export and do a test print. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Gosh.
So it always helps to have as many eyes as possible on your design. So if I make something and I send it to the team, there's a really good chance they're going to be like, oh, you actually spelled fundraiser wrong, and this is like shaped like a butt or something. And like, this isn't this isn't it. And so you kind of just go back like, oh, all right, well, that was my first draft and we're going to iterate on it and it's just going to get better. It's usually not the first design that's picked. I think it just helps to go back and forth and, like I said, have as many eyes on it as possible. And like, you're not going to agree with everyone. Some people are going to have advice that you're just like, well, that doesn't really make sense for what I'm trying to do, but thank you for your input. So I would say my advice for designing is just having at least someone you can bounce an idea off of, because I feel like that makes such a difference versus just like doing everything by yourself.
Yeah, I think you totally hit on it. I think it's really important, especially for more novice designers. Like, right, that first design, you might love it, and right, you did so much taking that blank space and making something, but right, it's not going to be that. You have to be willing to like let it go, save it, if you're really that attached, but like you have to be willing to move pieces around, reiterate on it, because that's how you do get to really good designs.
Gosh, as not a designer, I feel like the emotional toll right now of like having to like say goodbye to something you worked so hard on. But
Yeah, you light it on fire and then never look at it again. Some stuff, it's really like that. It's like, well, I thought this was cool, but I guess I'm not cool. Yeah. I think like you kind of develop, I would say like not a thick skin, but you have to let things roll off your back a little bit easier. Because like not everyone has the same style either. Like some people might be like really into colors that you're just not a fan of, but you kind of like it. Everyone's going to have an opinion, but you're designing for a specific reason. Like we are making this hat for this fundraiser. I don't know. I said it could be anything. You're making something specific, but if it works for the fundraiser, it's just like, or like you have to keep something in a specific like brand guidelines. It's not everyone's going to agree, but there's usually a happy medium.
Nice.
Yeah. But it is like, I feel like if you do start, like Allison said, it's not like a thick skin, but you start to associate, right? It's not, you need to have your own hobbies of like what you do. That's like, right, the color palette you like, the style you like, that like, it doesn't really matter about anyone else's opinions because, right, I made art for my house or like wherever I'm at. I made it for me. That when you're then doing the design for at work, right, where Allison's saying you have certain like requirements or needs, other opinions that like, yeah, they get to get in there. You just, right, it's not a thick skin. It's just like, okay, this has a different purpose in my life and it's not like my cherished child over here.
It's nothing. Yeah. It's usually nothing personal. No one's.
Yeah.
Someone's rarely trying to hurt feelings on purpose.
Yes. Yeah. So you just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And like also, like I worked with both of you with like your designs. So, like your first drafts are beautiful. So like.
Maybe that wasn't maybe that was just the first draft you saw.
Oh,
right?
maybe.
For public eyes, right? Just for the public eyes.
Don't look at my sketchbook.
All right. So a few more quick questions for you. We've touched upon this a little bit, but is there anything that you've learned to avoid designing while designing for CARES? Butt shapes. That's what I've learned. Try to be
as PC as possible. You're kind of designing for all ages. But I think not going so much as to like things to avoid designing, but avoid saying yes to absolutely everything. You don't want to pile too much on your plate because then it's like you're losing quality and you're just, you're losing quality if you're trying to up the quantity too much. Like if you have the budget if you don't have a large budget, but for whatever reason you're going to an event that has 1,000 attendees, just because it has 1,000 attendees doesn't mean you have to get the absolute cheapest water bottle that's going to melt in the sun or
not even the dishwasher. It doesn't even make it to the dishwasher.
It doesn't even make it to the dishwasher. So I think like making quality, swag items that people are quality swag items that people are actually going to take and, appreciate like, oh, like this has your company's like brand on it. Or, if you're doing it for a charity, you don't want someone to like, wow, I paid $50 and this fell apart. It's kind of like, you're still trying to raise money, but you don't want to, it's also bad for the environment. Some of you keep going back to those water bottles, but if it's not dishwasher safe, I don't want it.
Well, yeah, and I'll say like for the quality. So my mother-in-law got the Rainbow Families Pride shirt that you created for the fundraiser, and she wears it every time she comes to she's always wearing that T-shirt. Like nice. DC, Michigan, she loves that T-shirt.
Glad to hear it.
So, yeah. And then, how does design help employees get involved with the CARES program?
So people get really excited if they hear that we're going to be selling, really cool items. Like I said, people love a T-shirt, but if people want to get involved, and a lot of times people love the organization that you're fundraising for, and they'll just come to me like, how can I get involved? How can I help? Like, I don't have a ton of time, but like, I would love to help any way I can, which is great. Like, even if people don't want to help contribute to what the designs are, like, that's another person to bounce ideas off of. because there's a chance that, they've been a part of fundraisers or organizations and like they have some ideas. So I think opening it up to the companies like, hey, this is what we're doing. If you want to help, get in touch. Because the more diversity, the better. Like, obviously, you want to have everyone on board and, it just helps to bounce ideas off of, a committee rather than 2 people.
So nice. I love that comment about diversity and bringing more, voices into the project.
Sorry, I did not need to cut you off.
No, you're fine. That's it. I'm all about the DE&I. We chat about all the time, so I love hearing.
So as we wrap up this conversation, I have 2 final comments, and maybe Marie will have another question. But how would you define success as a designer for CSR or a different company, CSR, or the Art Cares program?
So success obviously looks so different. Even the same charity or fundraiser, 2 years in a row, we learned that t-shirts do a lot better than almost everything else that we've tried. So that's something to keep in mind. And I know it's a little bit tough because of, with COVID and like things being hybrid events, in-person events, we kind of learned some things through that for the future. But I think as long as the organization didn't lose money from your fundraiser, it's a win. You're still helping. And that's for CSR. I mean, I think in CARES, I think as long as you're trying to do better, that's still a win. And, don't give up. If your campaign didn't, or if your fundraiser or campaign didn't do so well that year, just iterate for the next year and go back to t-shirts.
It's t-shirts.
It's t-shirts.
T-shirts.
I have t-shirts.
Heard, and I've heard that the t-shirts are very soft all the time.
Yeah. I as someone who wears it, yes.
Yeah. Quality.
So you 2 talked a little bit about this, about advice that you would give to more novice designers coming up, having a little of, it's not personal, but I'll ask both of you this question. What advice would you give to a young designer coming up in addition to not personal?
Advice. So I feel like I kind of learned this, and every job, every company, it's all different. Agency, you're kind of going to learn the brand guidelines, who you're designing for. It could be different every time, but I think just don't be afraid to ask for clarification, or if you're not totally getting something, be like, I just need like some clarification on this. Like, we're designing for, XYZ, and like, this is the audience. How can I do better? Like, again, just let things roll off your back. It's usually not personal. You're going to learn as you go, and just ask for feedback. I think I ask for feedback on almost everything. It's probably really annoying, but that's how things get better.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I think mine is very similar. It's right, like coming in and being like humble, right? Like asking for that clarification, asking for the feedback. I feel like, I don't know the word right now. But I think it's very much in like the UX roles, like, oh my God, we have all these things. And like, oh, I really know the user, but like having that humility to ask, right, your stakeholders, and that they can all teach you something, as well as what all that you learned at school or even any training that you've done, having that humility and being humble to ask for feedback, and that we can always grow. Yeah. And just don't come in cocky.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
good
advice.
Agreed.
So Allison, thank you so much for joining us. My final question, or our final question to you, is where can designers or lovers of great comics, as you've been in animal designs, find you? I'm gonna look up on Insta for you, but let us know where we can find you.
Instagram or in person. I'm in Portland.
What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is Allison Turi. Turi. Maybe we can put in the show notes or something. It would be good to link out the artists that I was talking about earlier too, if anyone wants Figma tips or to check out really cool 3D illustrations.
Awesome. We will definitely do that. And with that, if our listeners are interested in getting involved in MetroStar's CARES program, as an outsider right now, we are working with the Marine Corps on their Toys for Tots fundraiser, which we've talked about today. This is a national organization that donates toys to underprivileged families during the holiday season. We'll drop a link in the bio as well for donating.
Awesome. And then this is Mock It. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And join us next time. If you're interested in learning more about how government and tech collide, visit MetroStar.com and follow along on socials.
Why are you so wet?